Good evening and welcome to Crossfire. Today we have with us in our studio Ms. Prachi Pinglay, who has been following closely Saamna, the Maharashtrian daily. Welcome to our show today. To those who are not aware of what Saamna is and who is behind it, can you tell us who is behind Saamna?
Well, Saamna is a Shiv Sena mouthpiece. It's popularly known as Shiv Sena mouthpiece. It was started by Balasaheb Thackeray in 1989, and it's largely to popularize what Shiv Sena stands for.
What is the role played by Saamna in bringing public opinion in favor of the Shiv Sena party? The Shiv Sena is a Hindutva party. Doesn't the paper cater to a niche readership?
Saamna is definitely, as Saamna's masthead goes, it's Jwalante Hindutvacha Puraskar Karnare Dainik. That is advocating militant Hindutva.
That's the only newspaper which has this in its masthead.
Yeah, and it's the only newspaper which also carries its editor's name on the masthead.
Okay.
So basically Saamna is definitely very clear about what it wants. I mean, they want to advocate Hindutva. They want to target Marathi Manus, that is Marathi people, and they want Marathi people to come up, like as they say. So it's all definitely a very exclusive attitude towards everything.
Does it anyway help in broadening the public base of the party?
Yeah, it does. I mean, Saamna basically started because Shiv Sena could not function without a daily. I mean, as Subhash Desai, that is Shiv Sena spokesman, says, he said that other newspapers were not reporting Shiv Sena's news or whatever Shiv Sena was involved with objectively. That is, they would be very critical about Shiv Sena and their activities. So they needed a paper which would objectively report what they did. So basically they started Saamna so that they could announce what Shiv Sena wanted to do, and yeah, that's about it. I mean,
can we say that the Saamna is a takeoff from the earlier magazine Marmik, which used to be weekly?
Yeah,
does both of the magazines, newspaper and magazine, share the same ideals? Both of them propagate what Shiv Sena and Balasaheb Thackeray wants to propagate, right?
Yeah, but Marmik basically started in 1960 something, before Shiv Sena was founded. So Marmik was a antecedent to Shiv Sena, and Saamna is kind of, it started because Shiv Sena couldn't function with Marmik alone. Now Marmik was a Sunday paper which had Thackeray is a very good cartoonist, so it carried his cartoons, and it was a light magazine which basically wanted to attract the audience in a light, funny way. And then after it started, if the readership increased, and then they started publishing these lists of names of people who were non-Maharashtrians and who occupied important positions in industries or business houses. So that was basically to tell Maharashtrian readers that Maharashtrians or Marathis were not getting a good deal out of non-Maharashtrians coming to Bombay or Mumbai. So, and Marmik continued to do that in a funny way. I mean, whereas Saamna is a commercial paper, is a good newspaper. Good newspaper in the sense it has a wide coverage, and it is essentially a serious paper, as in that's what it claims to be.
Apart from promoting Hindutva, do they give enough justice to the other news items which happen in the world?
Yeah, Saamna in circulation figures, it competes with Maharashtra Times and Sakal. That is, after it comes second or third after Lok Satta. Lok Satta ranks first. So in that sense, as a daily, it is definitely a good newspaper in the sense it has been covering news. They have their correspondents all over the country, and it's just the way they report. I mean, their news could be tainted. Their news could be presented in a different way with a slant, with a Hindu slant.
Yeah. Saamna is notorious for its editorials and the kind of language it uses, Bal Thackeray uses. What do you have to say about the vindictive approach and the abusive language which he uses in this paper against his political opponents?
You can't say it's notorious, it's very famous also.
Yeah, maybe you can say infamous, yeah.
Okay, I mean Saamna basically sells for its editorials. So, I mean, the reader of Saamna is buying Saamna for its editorials. So, if you want to know how the editorials work, well, I mean, there is a definite section which hates Saamna for the way it writes, and there is a section which takes Saamna only for the way it presents the news. So if you talk about the violent and provocative language that Thackeray uses, they call it straightforward and forthright, which is, but in that sense, as Kumar Ketkar of Maharashtra Times, he says that it is not, if it's a commercial newspaper, it should stick to what standards are set by other newspapers. That is, not obviously criticizing someone, calling names to other people, calling names, which Thackeray does very often. And if it's just a Shiv Sena mouthpiece, if it's just a party paper, then they can say what they want to. But since they claim to be objective and they claim to be a good daily, they should not be ideally using this language.
Okay. So since the attitude of Saamna is like this, very strong language it uses, what is the attitude of the other newspapers and media in general towards Saamna? Do they go against, or do they fight strongly against this, or do they try to curb it in any sort of way?
Right, fair, and then Muslims should be chucked out. And it's not just provocative; it's extremely insulting, and it could lead to a lot of mishaps. They actually did. But what Saamna people believe is, according to one reporter, he said that circulation actually went up during the riot. So you can see there is a population. In our population, there is a class which believes whatever Shiv Sena advocates, believes whatever Saamna stands for, and they actually took Saamna, upheld Saamna and Thackeray for saying that Hindus should get up and wake up. And
do you agree with me when I say that even during the public riots, during the Mumbai riots, the Saamna had a biased approach towards the whole thing?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Saamna, obviously.
But how strong and how obvious was it?
Oh, they said things like they called Muslims Landa, which is a very derogatory term. The language was extremely abusive. Secondly, they said that they congratulated for the Babri Masjid incident. Then they said that the police, after the Shri Krishna report was submitted, they said that police was unfair to Hindus, and that Hindus didn't start everything. All the arguments which go for Hindus and against Muslims, they were all stated very openly in Saamna.
The Shiv Sena has openly stated that they hate Muslims who do not respect Hindustan. What is Saamna's attitude towards Muslims?
Overtly, they think, they say that they're fair, but they're not, because they've been saying all these things about Hindus. First of all, they call India Hindustan. Now that is not technically right, because if they have to call Indian term, they should say Bharat. But they refuse to do that. They call it Hindustan. Then all the places like cities which has names, with Muslim, like Aurangabad, it's Sambhaji Nagar now. In spite of not changing it technically, officially it's not changed, but they refer to it as Sambhaji Nagar.
Okay, that's all we have time for today. It was great talking to you. We'll be back with you tomorrow. See you. Good night.
Bye bye.